I mean, I look at you know, some of the different divisions that I see going on right now in the United States, like this really toxic form of masculinity that is really oppressing all kinds of individuals, right? And Pete Hegseth is a really good model of that, right? And so to me, that is so disturbing because that's all about really suppressing women, suppressing minorities, suppressing all kinds of people. And there's nothing inclusive about that. And that kind of energy, and certainly giving a platform to that kind of a person, is just more than I personally can bear.
Well, that brings me to another question I had for you because I know this is one of your passions. You mentor several women right now, and you have throughout your career, I know. And we've mentored a lot of young people in our world too, both men and women. And Sunday, yesterday, was International Women's Day, and actually that day, March 8th, was the day that Russian women Russian women in 1917 that organized Bread and Peace March because they saw what their world was being destroyed and it was all the bad things that were happening in Russia in 1917. Um, but they gave that kind of courage to it and took great risks to do this. And so women have, as we think about it, I mentioned to you, I think once before, that about 6,000 years ago or so, whatever you want to start counting, the whole feminine archetype, the earth goddess, that they were honored because of the regenerative powers of nature and fertility. And then of course we became much more exploitive and conquering, and that became dominant. And now we're witnessing a renewed interest in regeneration. It's not just sustainability, so we can not make the world any worse than it was, but rather how do we regenerate? And we've been a part of several regeneration groups and so forth, and we're seeing that it's starting to take hold in different pockets, little pockets here and there. And we've helped convert some of our clients to be more regenerative in how they think about their business and their systems and so forth. But this regenerative energy is feminine energy. So what is important about this archetypal feminine influence in our world? Why is that important? How do you look at that?
Well, you know, it's so funny. I've in my lifetime, I've been very interested in the study of the goddess and the whole feminine energy. And I remember many years ago, I did a trip to Turkey specifically to study the ancient path of the goddess in Turkey. And so back then, when you went to any temple, they had these large statues of women that were, you know, often big-breasted and sort of, you know, the matriarchal person that basically was the caregiver and the nurturer, if you will, of the society. And what a difference, right? When you compare that to the masculine kind of Pete Hegseth model, right?
Yeah.
What's interesting, I think, is that when I see women in leadership positions in most of the organizations that I work with, which by the way is not very often that I see them like as the CEO or the board chair or something like that. But when I see them in charge of departments or groups, their energy and the way that they actually transform their work is so different than the men. And
Mhm.
part of it is and I will tell you in my field, when I first started 43 years ago, almost everybody well, the work that I did didn't exist back then. I created a whole bunch of it, but the kind of stuff that I do didn't exist.
Mhm.
But the people that practice the work that I do now, the ones that are the most successful are the women. And I always kid them about this. I said, you know, the good thing about us is that we can do two things really well. We can play the cheerleader role and we can encourage and, you know, really move people along. And we can also kind of be the nag, but a nice one. And so you can actually make two things happen kind of at the same time. My male clients who do what I do in corporations, they can't do that. They
Mhm.
can maybe nag them, but they don't know how to cheerlead and they don't know how to support. There's that nurturing energy that I think women bring to the party that men don't. Nothing personal, gentlemen. I just, you know, it's a different vibe.
None
Well,
taken.
It's
I
a
know.
different vibe, right? So, and I think my clients who are women, they do great because they can cheerlead, they can nag, and they don't piss anybody off because they know how to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if it's our genetics or whatever, but it's all about, to me, building relationship and community because that's what sustains us. And I think when I look at my clients, I mean, what I do for a living is all about that, even though I'm talking about death, doom, and destruction every damn day. But you know, you can still do that in a sustaining
Yeah,
way, right?
yeah, I agree. Well, Drew and I are obviously not women.
Really?
I am
Surprise.
married. My,
Good.
my
That was
wife,
good, Dan. That was good.
you just spent an afternoon with my wife on Saturday.
Yeah.
Meredith, she was the first at 27, was the first female vice president of a major corporation in all of Minnesota. And I know what she went through to hold her own against the big boys.
Yeah. It's
And
brutal.
it's brutal. It's tough, but you've got to be strong. And she was, but she was always, like you said, also the cheerleader. She was also the one that made sure people were taken care of. She was also, you just can't outboy the boys.
Right.
Mhm.
You've got to bring to the party what you are and who
Exactly
you are.
right. Exactly right. And when I knew, I mean, so when I started my business in 1982, my God, there was like nobody that did this work at all, and certainly not women. And so what I've experienced in my career is that when I see a woman, that's why I mentor so many women. When I see a woman in this role, and I just, if I can help you out anytime, you know, I let me know. I can help you. I can mentor you. I can do whatever. But I want to make sure that they're successful because I think we bring a lot to the party. And whether that's somebody in my role or whether it's in government or whatever, but I think women lead in a very different way.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think for me, one of the things that I love about working with women is that it challenges my own systems thinking.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, because I think for a long time, at least in terms of being an American guy, we've been so task and goal oriented
Yeah.
for men. And when I work with women leaders, they often provide a whole nother umbrella of perspective that I could bring into the fold, which actually creates even more insights.
Hmm.
Things like what is your intuitive hit?
Hmm.
How do you feel about this sort of thing?
Oh,
A lot
wow.
of,
What a good
like what a wild concept, right? Not just logically, does this make sense? Is
right.
this the thing to do? But as how do you feel? And also the socialization of
Yep.
concepts. And that's one of the things that I find truly valuable, coming from, a Western male privileged perspective, is that like, oh wow, our systems thinking, at least from my experience, has been very limited, but there is this whole universe of thinking and feeling and incorporating ideas and insights, and others that helps build towards a clear perspective to have
Hmm.
in
I
terms
think
of how we would plan,
I
and
think
even task.
I think he's right. It is whole systems because it's like you think of uh, the Eastern traditions where they have the symbol of yin and yang. If we all have yang, we're missing a big chunk here.
Right. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, you need to have both, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
Have
you
both.
have to see it in yourself. As a male, you have to see the feminine inside yourself,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Oh,
in order to
absolutely.
yourself.
Absolutely.
And
And I know it's very funny as I see all my gay men friends. I mean, they have generally a much better balance of that. It's
True.
true. It's true. They're like girlfriends to me.
well, the feminine is a giving, receiving process that is always giving out, but it's also receiving. It's receptacle, and it brings in others. It brings in other viewpoints, and this is the only way we're going to get through the next several decades. Quite
Yes, I
frankly,
totally
is
agree.
if we.
But the woman has all of those qualities, and yet she can be as firm as necessary. So she's got to have that, you know, kind of that better balance, if you will, to be able to dance on both sides of that aisle.
Yeah, one of our friends has written several books on the feminine face of God and things like this. And Sherry Ruth Anderson, and one of the things she said that we were talking about uh, the myths of uh, King Arthur
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the idea that when he died, they basically said he will return when there is a balance between the feminine and the masculine.
Hmm.
And that's what we're waiting. And so part of our transformation here is not just fixing things and making things better and stronger, but it's also the internal work. If the internal work isn't there, the external won't happen. And that's our challenge too, I think.
Well, and if you look at certainly the leadership right now in the United States, that's where as far away from that as you could possibly get.
Yeah.
No question.
Yes, sirree.
Yes, indeed. Uh, Another attendant question, I guess, on that is, we talked about some of the collapsing going on, and we've certainly messed things up, and we're breaking our covenants and our trusts and our agreements and things like this, and so people aren't trusting the U.S. as much, and that's going to take a long time to repair.
Right.
During this time, we all have to live. We all have to hopefully flourish during some of this as well. Um, any thoughts about the future and what insights you would say or advice you might give young people? One of the companies we're working with is a young company, a startup, and one of the things they're focusing on is how to help young people plan their lives and how to plan in a very messy, crazy world when there is no career ladders and when the businesses are collapsing and when AI is taking over so many of the jobs. And so how do they deal with it when they get out of college? And as we said to them, you do know that most of the college graduates today are women. They outnumber the men. So you better focus on the women too.
Right. All my young women friends who are, like recent college grads say like, these men, oh my God, they're awful.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I feel
I
sorry.
know. Well, that's what we observe from, we've worked a lot in Silicon Valley over the years, and I know what it's like down there. It's a bunch of young, really smart people who are not mature.
Right.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing in the tech bro world right now that's
Totally.
damaging so much is that immaturity coming through.
Yep. Painfully.
It's
And
like
that's why
just
women are
recently.
so frustrated, right? Like, oh my God, that's it? That's all I got to choose from?
So I'm not going to put on blast the name of the university, but they were inquiring for me to join their board, and they said just last year we discovered that the importance of EQ, and I
Oh my
was like,
God.
oh my
Where have
God.
they been?
I
It's
know.
no longer just IQ. It's also we have to incorporate EQ, and I'm like, wow, okay,
That's so progressive. Like,
yeah,
where have they
you
been? That's
guys
been
are
around for 40 years.
wow. I know.
Well, any advice you might have for um, people entering this world as they're going to have to take on the mess we left?
Yeah, amen to that, man.
Uh,
So yeah, I do. I mean, to me, I think it goes back to first of all, is connections. And I'm talking about not like how many followers you have on any goddamn social media platform. I'm talking about connections, like real connections, like, human people. So build real relationships,
uh-huh.
real ones, right? Like for example, and reach out all the time. So in my neighborhood, I live in San Francisco. I walk every day, like 3 miles. And I walk by a zillion people, and they're all their heads are in their phone every morning. I
Uh-huh.
say good morning to every single one of them,
But
even though their heads are down and they are completely disconnected from the universe. And after a while, they start actually saying good morning back. And I thought, good job, Regina. So I try and build relationships all the time, even when people don't even know what that means. So I
Mhm.
think connecting in all kinds of ways, I think is super important. And to that end, I want to just share the story of my salon because yeah, the one that your wife belongs to,
Mhm.
because it actually speaks to that. So many years ago, and this is right when I was chairman of the chamber, I had read an article in the Utney Reader, which I don't even think exists anymore as a magazine. And basically, it was about Gertrude Stein's salons.
Oh
And
yeah.
it essentially got me thinking about, well, that's really interesting. About a month later, I went to a funeral of one of my clients, a young woman who died. She was working at Levi Strauss. She had a heart attack. She died in her backyard, and she had her 2 kids with her.
Oh my goodness.
Awful, right? I
Yeah.
went to her funeral. Um, that was on Franklin Street in
Mhm.
the city. And when I walked in there, it was packed. And at one point, there were about 10 women that all got up in front of the church to talk about this women's group that they had formed and the relationships that they had. And they talked about that kind of caring and connection amongst these women. And I sat in that church and I said, I don't know how in the hell I'm going to have that, but I want that. I want
Mhm.
that. I want that feeling. I want that relationship. I want that support. And so I thought about how am I going to do that? And then I thought of that article of from the reader of Gertrude Stein. So I was chairman of the chamber at that time. I couldn't do it because I was working a full-time job on my business I owned. Plus, I was also the chair of the chamber. The next year, so in 92, I thought, okay, I'm going to start that. So I had a list of women friends. This is before email. I sent them postcards in the mail. And I said,
Yes.
yo, I want to do this. And so that's how my salon started. And
Oh,
I wanted to have that same that same connection, that visceral connection with a group of women who we all knew each other and we would support each other over time. So there's about 30 women in my salon, and whenever we get together, it's probably only 10 or 12 of us, and some people have moved away, but we're still all connected. And it is like the best thing I have ever done in my life was to build that kind of sisterhood, and we support each other every single day, whether we know it or not. And so what I would say to your young professionals is, create something, spend some time and energy and create that kind of heart connection with people because that will sustain you when nothing else does.
yes.
And so that is something I think is super important. So, and
If
then,
I could, if I could build on that, I think
yeah,
that I want to reinforce that because that is so important. I know from our life, same sort of thing. We have formed several nonprofits that have helped build things over time that have been successful and passed on and so forth like this. But also, we created just among a bunch of our friends. We all studied. When you're growing as a human being, you're growing in your psychological development, of course, and growing up, as you will. But you're also waking up, and the waking up is through some sort of spiritual growth or whatever else like this. And all of us got together and we said, we have all studied with all the different modalities out there. We've from Christianity to Buddhism to you name it. We've all been there. We've been gurued and workshopped and everything else like this. And we said, okay, so we don't need another guru. We don't need another teacher. We just need to share what we know. So we formed a group we called WA group, which was We Are Here, because that's the only thing we do know. We're here. And so we would show up several times a year at different places houses we had, and we would share what we're learning and what we're doing in our own spiritual and psychological growth, and share insights with each other. And this has gone on over 15 years now, and it's a really important part. And these are people I know that if we have a problem or we get in trouble or we need some help or we need guidance, we can call on each other, and we have. And so I agree with you totally. Create your own something,
right,
whatever it is.
right.
Yeah.
And I
Start
think,
your own
I think
biker gang.
if you build community like that and you create something that is that kind of supportive, connected group, to me, that is the most important thing you can do. And I think if I was advising anybody in the world of business and starting something, do that. And it's not about your ego. It's not about what you do for a living. It's about your connection. It's about that realness with another human. And that is so, so important. So I would say, build a community, create something, create a salon, create a group like what you did. And then basically you just put one foot in front of the next and you just keep going.
Yeah.
But you have that, you build that. I mean, that's one of the most important things I've done in my life.
Yeah. It becomes organic at that point. Once it starts getting its own life, it
Yeah.
starts becoming. And what you had a third thing as well in terms of advice?
Not, just, one foot in front of the other, man.
Okay.
You know, have a vision and work it. And so and I've done that for my whole year, all the time I've been in practice, is that I have a vision of what I want my life to be, but I also have a vision of what I want my work to be. And I put I commit to that, and I put one foot in front of the other every day to make it happen.
Well, Regina, this is so rich and so deep. We could go on for hours, but
I think we need a part 2.
Part 2 and 3, 4 and 5, maybe.
Like all the time, yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. Is there any last words words of wisdom or words of catastrophe you would like to share with anybody before we go?
Take good care of yourself. That's that. When I work with my clients, is that the work that I do, and the people that I work with in companies who do the work that I do, essentially, it's pretty stressful. And my comment to everybody is take good care of yourself.
That's great.
If you're not standing, we're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Be curious, be kind, be creative. That's our mantra that we have a little on the back of our book that we wrote is be curious, be kind, be creative.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Well, thank you so much, Regina. This has been wonderful and interesting afternoon together.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We are calling out to all you future shapers out there, folks and brands creating more value and enriching life. Are you or do you know an inspiring leader or a brand building a more regenerative future? We want to hear from you. At Beam, we are a design and strategy agency working with all levels of leadership and businesses, co-creating futures that's more rewarding for people, businesses, and our planet. Whether you are interested in being featured in our media or ready to take your enterprise into a new era, please visit us at beaminc.com. We would love to connect with you and explore shaping the future together.